secure the bag. Don't even blink, make them off the plank. Light them up, let's make them sing. Fire the cannons, fire the cannons, fire the cannons. On Bucs, yeah, we on. Fire the cannons, fire the cannons, fire the cannons. The whole field's our red zone. Let me give you 55 reasons why this is our season. Palm trees breezing, opposing teams bleeding.
All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, and you know what? I will follow you back. And I'm joined by my co-host, my man, KB, Ken Barrett, not to be mistaken for Shaq Barrett, even though he is wearing that number 58, which I do like that jersey, by the way. I do.
Appreciate it. Just don't mix me up with Byron.
Yeah, no Lord Byron. There may be a little Lord Byron slander today, but it was well deserved for obvious reasons.
Honestly, I'm gonna have probably more slander today for Devin White than I will Byron, so this will be fun.
Well, honestly, and I think I may have mentioned this. This is my hot take. This is my hot take of the year. You know me, I like to sit back and watch hot takes rather than make hot takes because it's easier to, get your phone out and screenshot that bad boy and bring it up in case of a later argument. But anyway, Devin White is approaching a realm where a football player is what he is.
He's not approaching. He's there.
He's there. I think
COVID, Devin, I've learned, is the best Devin that there's ever been. And unless COVID wants to resurface in Devin's life, I think that's just the best it's going to be.
Nestor Cervantes, what's going on, man? Yeah, we'll get to my guy here in a minute, but yeah, I think I expected him to plateau, but I expected him to continue that trajectory. And, we've continuously seen the same thing. I think with rookies, you give them 3 years, sometimes 4, to see what they're going to become. And along that way, you want to look at what if there are certain habits that you see, or if you see them consistently having breakout games. For me, consistency is the most important aspect when you're looking at a player. What are they doing on a regular basis? Are they continuously making plays? Are they not? That kind of thing. That's kind of what I look for. It's not looking for that ESPN play every week, but it's looking for consistent play, whereas you're not the weak link on a defense.
Well, I mean, there's 2 right now, and the other one's Vita Vea. Vita Vea is not the man that we paid. And I don't know if he's going through some kind of injury, but again, I think Vita Vea has shown us what he can be.
Absolutely.
But Devin has only shown it over 3 games, really, and that was all in the 2020 postseason. So to me, Devin, man, we've seen all good coaches essentially that we play just pick on him. Good coaches, good quarterbacks, they're going to pick on him. I mean, we just saw this Sunday that it doesn't require a good quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, Mitch Trubisky and
Trubisky can go out there and do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Neil, that's the thing, though. I mean, the Najee Harris touchdown. I mean, you could tell by the play design they knew exactly what they were doing. Najee Harris lined up to the right of Kenny Pickett. He acted as if he was going to, engage in some blocks, and then he just snuck out. It was basically a screen, but with no blocking. They just knew Devin was going to be sucked in. There was nothing for the team to really do.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously know he gets picked on when he's in zone coverage, especially. Just throw 2 guys, one in front of him, one behind him, and he'll just not guard any of them. He'll just run all the way to the left for whatever reason, and the center's wide open.
Yeah.
So these teams are going to pick him apart.
Shooter from Shooter in the Stash. Shout out to We the Thunder, Shooter in the Stash. Great podcast. Lightning is here. Lightning Hockey is here. So definitely got to support our team, and my guy has been gracious enough to have us on his site, and I really appreciate that. To all the listeners out there who are checking us out for the first time, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Yeah, there you go, Cigar City. You know it. This is just what it is, So, but kind of getting back to what you're talking about here. I seen the word regression came up, and that's a great word. And we've continuously seen this in Devin White, where he'll regress a little bit, and then just all of a sudden he'll have some breakout games. But it's been nothing consistent.
Gene,
And
his
I think
breakouts are when he blitzes. It's if Devin doesn't get sacks, Devin doesn't have good games. That's just
Mhm.
how it is. And that's the thing is he might have games where he is in coverage 70% of the time, fucking up 60% of the time, but in his 30% where he's blitzing, something happens.
right.
That's
And
the issue, is because he's not having consistently good games. The only time he has was those 3 games in the postseason where he was actually good in coverage. I mean, that led him to
yeah,
that pick, on Patrick Mahomes that basically sealed the Super Bowl. I
right.
mean, being at the right place, right time. He doesn't have that feel for the game. He's the same player that he was in college.
Yeah. His rookie season. I mean, if
So
we're
that's
going
where
if we're
I'm
going
taking my
apples for
foot off the regression thing because he did all of this at LSU. He
Mhm.
did all of this. He just hasn't learned the game. And, everyone wants to go to that comment from last week, the whole, or
Oh,
to the Chiefs game, where it's essentially like, we just, got lazy or whatever. Like, he's the
honest,
captain and he's saying that. Like,
I,
he's
honestly,
just blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to talk shit. Like,
mhm. And
he doesn't back it
what's
up.
really interesting is Levante David is quietly having another one of Levante David's seasons. Is it's still happening. I mean, he's not the we can argue this here. I don't feel like he's the liability that you see
Oh,
with
he's not a
Devin.
liability, but I would say it's an okay season. I mean, I don't think Levante's playing up to his standards, but I think that microcosm for that is the Chiefs game, where I think he's had a pretty okay year. But the Chiefs game, I mean, Kelsey ate his lunch.
Right. But to that point, I will say this: this defense is predicated on the front four getting home, getting pressure on the quarterback, and we have yet to see what we thought we would see from this front four, or whatever rotation they have in there. Can we agree on that? Did I lose you? Oh, I think he's frozen. Oh, he's frozen. He'll be back. But anyway, for me, just the defense is just not played up to where you would expect them to be. And are you back? Oh, you are back. Okay, I think you
No,
had.
for me, the defense, like Todd Bowles, I think is doing a lot of the right things. I think if people want to talk about execution errors, to me, it's on the defense. I think there's a lot
Yeah,
of good.
one hundred
I mean,
percent.
Todd Bowles hasn't called things perfectly, but he's put players in a position to succeed, probably other than Devin White, because we know forcing Devin to do things he's not good at, is kind of beating a dead horse
Mhm.
there, ironically. Sorry. But like, with the defense, I think he's taken a lot of really good things that other coordinators are doing and have implemented into this team. That I think his biggest issue is Logan Ryan being out.
Yeah,
Um, Mike
that was
Edwards being
huge.
out.
Uh,
Like,
and, and Logan Ryan being out was huge, and I think we lost him for the season.
no, he's got surgery. He'll be out probably 4 to 6 weeks. But Gene, do you have any idea who was playing safety last week? It wasn't Keanu. I mean, Keanu Neal was playing safety, but guess who our free safety was for the entire game?
Talk to me.
D. Delaney.
Were
When
you
have you
happy?
known D. Delaney to play safety?
And
So again, I think with a lot of things that are going on, Todd Bowles has done well. We didn't hear D. Delaney's name in a bad way on
mm-mm.
Sunday. So there's some things going on. I think Todd overall has been okay. It's the third and longs that were inexcusable. I mean, Chase Claypool, I mean, no Steelers fan wanted Chase Claypool, and now he's one of the hottest trade targets because of course he played against the Bucs, went over 100 yards and in that winning effort for the
but
Steelers. But the
but I mean,
offense to me, it starts with scheme. I can't even get into that right now. We'll get Josh to help us out
but
with
dude, I'm gonna
scheme.
say this. I mean, historically, if you're a team that's down on their luck and you're experiencing a losing skid, you want to circle that Bucks game. I mean, this has just been it's just what it is. It's just how it's always been. And I mean, this year is no exception. I mean, you look at this kid that came in, and then Trubisky comes in and he does what he does. It's just it is what it is.
Before we get to Josh, I mean, Gene, how many times do you think Tom Brady has lost 3 out of 4 in his career?
I think it was once.
3. 2 of them are with the Bucs. The other one was his rookie season.
Wow, there's a
Hi,
lot.
Josh.
What's up?
On that note,
My man Josh, what's going on, brother?
Not much. I feel like you guys were talking about losing, and then I jump on, and I'm wondering if I have to have a
Oh, we
complex
wanted
about
to
that.
transition to winners.
Yeah, we wanted to say, you know what? That's your intro right there, my friend Josh. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. I've just got home from out of state, so it's nice to be back around family.
So where'd you travel to? Can you tell us?
Yeah. So for my other job, I cover 5 states as a district manager for a retail company. So I was out in the Hilton Head area in South Carolina, not too far
Scaring
from
people.
Savannah. And what's that?
District managers scare people.
You know,
It's
I
like we're like
try.
inspectors. I know you don't
Try
try.
my hardest not to
Listen,
do
it's
that.
not you. It's the store managers. And again, I don't mean to talk shop here. Store managers. Oh God, we got a district manager coming to visit. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to dress this way. You got to do this. And you know what? It has nothing to do with you. I would say 9 out of 10 times I've met the district manager and they've always been cool. And they're like, I don't know why they're doing this.
My favorite story along those lines is I was visiting a store in Charlotte, North Carolina once, talking with the store manager and some of her part-time associates, and one of the part-time associates said something, and I just gave this kind of look to the manager, and the part-time associate immediately goes, "Wait, is that one of those things we're not supposed to say in front of Josh?" And I look back at the manager. I go, I really want to hear the answer to this question. Is that one of the things you're not supposed to talk about in front of me? She went beet red. I was like, I want to hear the list of things you're not supposed to talk about in front of me. So we had a good laugh about that. But yeah, I was in the Savannah area, Hilton Head. So it was about 5-6 hour drive home.
Hey, you know what? But it was worth it though. You're here, you're hanging out with friends.
Absolutely.
Fuck what you heard. And my man Josh Kipo, right? Am I pronouncing it?
Capo.
K.
Capo.
I think it's just K.
What is the origin? Not to get off subject here.
It's Spanish, and I like to joke about this. Technically, it doesn't have the accent mark, but the first part of my last name is basically what?
What, Cape?
Yeah, what po?
So I want to get your take on this game. We got to get back to football here. We're and just remember, if you're just joining us, first time you're watching, this is Buck What You Heard, the most unprofessional podcast out there. We try to enjoy ourselves. But anyway, what was your take on this game here? This is a game that last week we really didn't like come out and one way or the other really say anything. It was just a game that the Bucs is a winnable game. We'll put it that way. And it just didn't turn out the way it should have. What are your takes on that?
They ran out of time. They kind of, I'd say they underperformed their talent level and execution level for about 50 minutes, and they needed 12 to fix it, and they only had 10. That's
there you
the
go.
Best way I can describe it.
And I know people are jumping out the window right now. I mean, you got people that are abandoning ship and getting on all the lifeboats and, sailing out to calmer seas and everything, man. To me, guys, this game is like the Chicago Bears game in 2020, the Washington football team game last year.
Mm-hmm.
There are just games the Bucs just played out in their competition. And, the one thing that I will say, and Josh, KB, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but Byron Leftwich, just for some reason, he regresses at the beginning of the season. I don't know how to really describe it. I don't know how they manage to turn things around, but it just seems like this slow start and they're forcing the run. And, we all know that first down when as soon as the Bucs get the ball, first and 10, they're going to run the ball. We already know that. I'm already going to call it. It's what it's going to be on Sunday. And it's just what they do. And then for some reason, something incredible happens where they turn everything around and get everything going. So am I wrong in the way I'm thinking about this?
Gene, you ever like plan to do a project and you say, all right, I want to make sure I've got the best plan in place to execute this project. So I'm going to meticulously plan every step to make sure that it goes off without a hitch.
Right.
And you get about 2 steps in, something happens that's unexpected. The plan just goes right out the window, and then you're just kind of winging it, saying, I know I've got to complete it. I have no clue how I'm going to get there. But at this point,
Fear will get you there. Hey, as soon as I run into that, man, it's like, okay, we're breaking out the alcohol now.
Yeah,
it's all over, man. It's just
right.
It's
and you just kind of say, well, what are the things I do well? Let me try and do those. It's kind of how Leftwich is as a play caller. He's got this plan, this ideal in his mind of being balanced and being multiple, and we're gonna do everything really well, and we're gonna get to our goal. And then they get to about the third quarter and figure out we're behind, or we're tied, or we're not in a good situation. Let's just go do the thing that we do really well, and that's throwing the ball. And then they hope that they can ride that to the end of the game. I love that comment, by the way, Shooter and the Stash. Huge Office fan.
Exactly. So, that makes sense. I just, there are times where I can't make sense of what Byron is doing. They have this really complex playbook, supposedly. And I look at the plays that they call, and there's no, it's predictable. There's nothing, there's nothing unpredictable about it. I mean, they design, I think the defense is a little bit more unpredictable than the offense. And with the weapons they have, would you guys say that they should be doing more? I mean, for me, I'm throwing a jump ball to Mike Evans in the corner of the end zone. If it's me, I'm not throwing in the middle of traffic to Chris Godwin. And that's just me personally. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but Mike Evans is a weapon that you can use regardless of who's on him in the end zone. He's somebody that you can always go to. And
in a one-on-one matchup, sure. But the problem was down in the end zone, the Steelers committed to taking Evans away.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that. You can take Mike Evans away, right? He's not Stephon Diggs, right? He's not Justin Jefferson. He's just not those guys. He wins in different ways.
And that's not a bad thing. I want everyone to know that. What Mike does is different and better than a lot of people in different things. Same thing with Godwin. They're not like Josh is saying, Stephon Diggs, where you can Cooper Kupp, where you can just ask them to essentially do everything, and they're going to do everything.
Right.
They do some things really well and better than 90% of their peers. Sorry, I digress.
And they did try to move Mike around. Like one of the goal line runs, they had him lined up in the slot, both on second and third down when the incomplete passes to Russell Gage. And the second one, the third down that almost went for a touchdown. I mean, it was a bit of a difficult throw, and Gage had a shot to catch it. So from a schematic standpoint, the offense is very difficult because it asks people to make decisions on their routes in a split second, and they have to read the coverage exactly the same as the quarterback. Because if they don't, then the ball's delivered to a different spot, and that's when you run into some troubles, right? So great example was it was down in the red zone.
Can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Of one that I saw?
Yeah.
So
please.
on the possession that Josh was talking about, where Russell Gage doesn't catch that touchdown, I mean, Byron Leftwich drew up two really good plays. So he had trips to the left, solo on the right, solo to the left.
Right.
And essentially Mike was in the slot. Basically, Mike ran like a fade route on the first play. And what essentially Byron saw was how the defense adjusted to him. So the very next play, or 2 plays later, whatever it was, Russell Gage, he runs the same exact play. Russell Gage, instead of running sort of like an out route, he does a post right to the center.
Yeah, it's an over route.
And over route, and Gadecki got Brady off his spot just that much.
Yep.
Byron has done some really good things.
Yeah, he had to dance through the pocket on that one.
Byron has done some good things, but to Josh's point, like when you're meticulously going over a project, if your staff, that you hired comes late each day, that's going to put you back, right? So when you're going 1st and 10 and your first play is -2, Or vice versa. Let's say you take a shot on 1st and 10, or Brady throws it away. We already know it's going to be a run. So, the defense knows. And we're talking about Mike Evans. Paul Atwell, one of Josh's colleagues over at Pewter Report, laid this out beautifully, where essentially in the NFL, they're playing more cover 3 on early downs more than any down in the NFL. And what is cover 3 basically to an outside receiver like Mike Evans? It's a one-on-one matchup.
Right.
He can run the dig, he can run a go, whatever he wants. He's basically on that man one-on-one.
He beat
but
it
if you're
for the
running
20-yard catch early in the game, that was
Yeah,
a cover 3
exactly.
there.
That's a great point right there.
And that's where Byron's missing the mark, essentially, is he's missing his opportunities where he can get the defense in a good matchup. And then he might call some really good plays, but someone gets beat. A receiver doesn't read the coverage right. Brady, might think of pass rush is coming, might not even be there yet. His time clock's going, he throws it away. That sets you back, because to me, I'm a big my big word is flow. Like, I want my quarterback to come in. If I go 3 and out the first the first drive, but my quarterback completed 2 out of 3 balls and we were 2 yards short and we had to punt. Okay, but I established like a rhythm. I was able to get everyone comfortable. I made it probably 3rd and short, it sounds like. Maybe we ran and didn't get it, whatever the case may be. But I'm getting us going. Brady in the first quarter is sometimes throwing 50%, of his completions.
Right.
He's not getting any kind of rhythm to get going. Mike
and he's
is
not
getting targeted. Godwin's being force-fed, but the defense is already keying on him.
Right.
So it's like you haven't spread them out yet, which is what the Bucs do really well, is spreading people out when they're at their best. They're spreading people out. They're getting people open with space. And that's why we see when the Bucs are down, generally they do better, because that defense is kind of backing off.
And to KB's point, to your point, KB, the one thing that I've noticed about the Bucs is when their offense is cooking, they've got the defense on their heels, and this opens up so much more for them when this happens. And we haven't seen that. I think the defense is, the opposing defenses impose their will more so than the Bucs have been able to do what they need to do.
Well, I think the big thing, kind of going back to your original point, Gene, is this is an offense that is personnel driven. You have to have superior players. It's not one where you can typically mask for poor execution. All right. So your receivers in the second half, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. Pittsburgh, down 4/5 of their starting secondary, ran some form of man coverage on 40% of the Bucs dropbacks, right? So I didn't chart the run plays, but when they were actually throwing the ball, the Steelers decided to go man coverage. So either cover 1 or cover 2 man, 2 out of every 5 plays, or every 5 throws. I could not believe it. But in those situations, you have to have receivers who get open, right? Who beat those matchups.
And Godwin got owned. If I'm just going to be honest a little bit, Godwin did not have his best game. And granted, Brady had some bad throws to Godwin mixed in there, but like they both just, it wasn't working.
And
he wasn't getting open, but they were still doing. Godwin's great at just they did some pretty amazing things. Like I put a clip on Twitter where everybody thought that Brady threw into triple coverage. It's like, no, first of all, the safety who made the tackle wasn't involved in the throw at all. So you could say he threw into double coverage. Well, he threw to Godwin with no separation on a defender who had his back to Brady. So he wasn't going to have any effect on the throw. And then Brady put it in a spot, back shoulder, where the pinching safety had no shot at affecting the throw. And then Godwin had to make a great catch. Both players did wonderfully, but to a lot of people, you see that on the game broadcast, which is, I posted that like immediately from the game broadcast. That looks like you shouldn't make that throw. Well, when you're Tom Brady, you can make that throw because you can put the ball exactly where it needs to be. They did that really well. But to Ken's point, Godwin was not creating separation against man coverage. And kudos to the Steelers secondary.
That's where I was going with this too. I felt like the Pittsburgh Steelers had more want to. I mean, that defense was energized, and they were coming.
Well, they were prepared. They knew kind of what we wanted to do, and that's the thing is the past couple of years, I mean, talking late half of 2020 all the way through 2021, the Bucs basically imposed their will, to Josh's point, on everyone. Everyone was healthy, things were rolling, no one could really stop us. I mean, right now the confidence is kind of shook. Godwin may not be all the way healthy. I mean, we have one weak link on the offensive line that's causing a lot of issues. That again, that whatever
is this something that the Bucs line can recover from? I mean, just like
they can give Gedeke more help.
There's a lot of what if people want to talk like protections. I learned it as 60 and 70. So 60 would essentially be, if it's an even number, let's say 62. The right side is generally on a man. Left side would be a zone. So let's say center to the right, and then left side's manned, and then vice versa. If it's an odd number, 70 would be a full slide each way. So what I've been seeing is a lot of man from center right to the right tackle, and then one-on-ones with that left guard. That might be part of what teams are scheming, but Gadeki's not holding water.
Now, is this something where it's a mental thing where he's not, the speed of the game is too much for him, or is it physical tools? I mean, from what you're seeing from him.
I'll let you take it, Josh.
Check up from the neck up, right?
I agree with Ken. I think he's in his head. If you look at it from like a snap to snap basis, his timing's way off, his strike timing. So on one play, he'll be late. The defender will get into his chest and just walk him back. Right. So the next play, he's trying to get out early. He's trying to spring on him. He's trying to dictate the point of attack, and the defender sees it coming and just kind of stalls and lets him get out over his toes and leaning, and now you can swim over. You can just kind of let him fall over at that point. So yeah, it's a lot of that. I was honestly a little surprised that his anchor isn't better than what I saw in college at Central Michigan. I thought now remember he played right tackle and he played D2. So that's a big jump. You're going from right to left, you're going from outside to inside, and you're making a jump in level of play 2, 3, 4 fold. So you're asking a lot of that kid. But when he was playing,
real quick, just before you go any further, I want to ask you: is this something that is coachable, or is this something that he can rebound from as the season progresses?
He can certainly get better than the level of play that he's got now. If you're looking for above average play from him by the end of the season, that's an unreasonable expectation.
I mean, for me, I would like to be like, well, we're not hearing his name.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to. So how do you fix this at this point? And KB, I'm going to start with you as the offensive lineman of the crew here. How do you remedy this right now to get the Bucs at least through the season to where they start getting a little bit more consistent in helping Tom Brady to have a little bit more time to get the ball out?
Get Ryan Jensen on the TB12 method. No. I mean, no, for a player like Hideki, I think they did the right thing. I think he deserved to be pulled out of the game, not necessarily to lose his position, but with like a young player, sometimes it's good to take them out of the line of fire. I mean, we've already seen who he's gone against, but if this team wants to make the playoffs and make a push, he's going to be seeing Aaron Donald. He's going to see Fletcher Cox.
Meaningful reps, though. These are meaningful, regardless of what happens moving forward. These are still meaningful reps for him, right?
But yeah, so Gene, okay, I mean, I'm a big baseball guy too here. Like Rays fans, Rays are all about the prospects, right?
Right.
How many Rays come year over year, just go up and down between the minors? We saw it with Josh Lowe, right?
Right.
A player like him. Wander Franco comes in and he stays. Vidal Bruin, really talented player, still goes up and down.
Right.
So, like for Gadecki, I mean, he needs reps. Sure, everyone gets better with reps. I mean, we've all played sports and we've all done projects. We've all done work. However, he needs to have some kind of competition, which was what was unfortunate about what happened this preseason with Jensen going down,
Right.
Stinney going down. I know everyone said, oh, the world was falling because Stinney got hurt. No, but what Stinney was he was competition.
Right.
I mean, he's a guy who's done it before. Hainsey was supposed to be part of that competition. I think he's proven his nails. So whenever, Jensen does want to come back this year or next year or can come back, I mean, like he could probably play
Whoa.
Well, left guard. No, I mean, we want him to, but let's be realistic here. I know that report came out today, but I'm not buying it until someone at least confirms it. But I think, let's say in a perfect world, Jensen was playing center right now.
Mhm.
I mean, having Robert Hainsey right on his heels for Gadecki is a really good thing for the team, not necessarily maybe for Gadecki, but for the team, having that competition there would be good. I mean, we heard the staff talk about, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? The left guard who was in the competition to
Leverett?
Yeah, Nick Leverett. So Nick Leverett, we've heard from the staff how amazing he is. He's not even getting any kind of look. So that kind of tells me that I mean, Todd Bowles is saying to the public how much he loves and believes in Gadecki, but it sounds like they're not confident really in anyone behind him at this time.
That's part of it. I do want to, if you guys don't mind, I want to address KGH for Life's comment there. That's what happens when you draft a tackle and now he's training to play guard. All right. So, I mean, that's a little bit of Monday morning quarterback because the Bucs have successfully done that quite a
multiple times.
To varying degrees. So, yes, I mean, this is like a perfect seesaw, right? So, like, Gadecki is this end of the seesaw. You definitely don't want that a lot. But the other end of the seesaw is Ali Marpet, who also played left tackle at a D2 school.
D3.
D3, that's right. That's right. It was Hobart, right? He was
Hobart.
Hobart,
who doesn't have a football team anymore.
They don't have a football program anymore. He came into the NFL and immediately played average to better, right? At right guard initially. So, again, that's almost an exact same thing. He went from left to right, outside to inside, and he jumped even more in competition. Ali Marpet was just a different animal. And then the Bucs also have like kind of that middle ground in Alex Kappa, who played left tackle at a D3 school. He moved to D2. Sorry. He moved to right guard. His first year, a lot of people don't remember this. His first year was rough. It was Gadecki rough. All right. He was able to move up to, I mean, obviously not Ali Marpet's level, but average to above average.
He got paid $10 million. He did something right, everyone.
Exactly. So you want to talk about, hey, we shouldn't do this. You've got quite a few success stories. And I have faith that Gadecki, by the end of his rookie contract, is going to be, he's going to be a serviceable guard at minimum. Okay, potentially more. He's got the athleticism.
I think Kappa is a very good comp for what his 5-year trajectory or 4-year trajectory.
A more athletic version of Kappa, I would say.
Stronger, I think, too.
So and I don't want to jump too far into the future, but I still think it was a solid pick to bring him in and Gadecki, and we're talking about Gadecki here. He's getting punished right now with just the speed of the game and the level of competition. Look at his talent. I mean, this is murderer's row that he's faced, in the first games of his NFL career. I mean, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, look who he's gone up against.
Yep, and it continues this week. Derek Brown has not. He's finally ascending
because he lost his coordinator. That's the only good thing Gadecki has going for him, is because who knows if they use him really in the correct way. That's my hope. That's what I'm hoping.
I would say whoever takes over probably keeps the defensive.
Well, they're keeping the scheme. But
yeah.
So
and that's the big thing for Derek Brown is, you can get to the backside and what kind of coverages, but when you're playing D tackle, if the scheme stays the same, they're going to ask you to do mainly the same stuff. So,
right.
Also, Matt Ioannidis, don't sleep on either.
He's a solid. I love that as an underrated signing in free agency. I mean, coming out of Washington, nobody really had seen him
DT
because
like 5 there because they had so many first-round guys.
Exactly. But yeah, Ioannidis is good. They've got a decent interior, much to the unfortunateness of Luke.
So can we all agree that the best offensive linemen are currently employed by NFL teams? Can we all agree on that? For the
I
most
think I know where you're going with this.
because
Yes.
I'm hearing people talking about, well, just go out on the street and
I
get
thought you
into
were going
the
to say
offensive line.
trade. That's what I thought you were going to say because there's none on the street.
There's nothing on the street.
There's a JC Allen from Pewter Report. He even put a thing out there. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. Trying to switch back into NFL mode. But there is a guard who is unsigned who had a decent PFF score last year that fans are clamoring for or starting to clamor for. And I'm trying to remember who it was. And I can't off the top of my head. I'll figure it out by the end of the podcast and randomly just yell it at you guys.
Yes. As soon as it pops into your head, it doesn't matter who's talking. You just put it out.
Sounds good. So, but to your point, Gene, I am very much of, if he's not signed, there's a reason for it. There is a dearth of good offensive line play. If you are a good offensive lineman, most likely you should be signed at this point in the season.
You're employed.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. You kind of have to work with what you have. Do you feel like, Flowers, somebody mentioned Flowers in the chat.
I think that's it.
Eric Flowers.
That's the one.
Now, is he 100% healthy?
No one signed him. It's for a reason.
Yeah, for a reason.
Like Sue, for instance, Sue's asking for too much money. Eric Flowers doesn't have that problem. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. If you can trade for one, sure, I'm all for that. If you can find a team that's willing to give up a quality guard, I don't know if it's too many.
Usually,
sellers.
good teams don't have good.
No, and I mean, your offensive linemen are like gold right now.
Yep.
I mean, if your team is quality, like you look at the Bucs last year and the offensive line situation they had, you weren't looking to trade anybody off of the Bucs offensive line, even your reserves, backups, practice squad. You weren't looking to get rid of anybody. Am I correct in saying that last year, 2021?
I mean, the Eagles, who are notorious for having one of the best offensive lines year over year, literally turned to rugby because they didn't have many other options. Jordan Mailata, in case anyone's curious,
right.
7th round pick, never played football before. That's how hungry NFL is for linemen.
Yep. Although it's a great
story.
Yeah, like an amazing story. And I think you're going to see the NFL. They've started to invest in parts of the world where you can get some translatable skills. They need a better pipeline for it. Mailata did, like, his learning curve was incredible. But you can find some pretty, and colleges are doing.
And I love rugby, by the way. As a growing up as a football fan and watching rugby and watching the technique that they use to tackle, and there are injuries. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a perfect world in rugby, but there are less injuries with rugby with less padding and than what you would see with. Yes, it's all technique, and that's the whole thing. I mean, that's a lot of guys are looking to get on ESPN or
Devin White.
They're looking to be they're looking to build their brand by making these crazy hits and stuff like that, rather than going in, having good technique, bringing this player down so that it's not impacting your defense. And you're just when you compare rugby to the NFL, it's just like a totally different animal.
All right, I think this is an interesting comment. If you can go back to that last one.
Okay.
All right. Just, it takes two to tango, Bucs times 12. So if we have a bunch of bad players, what team is going to give up a good guard for a bunch of bad players? Like, I'm trying to figure that out logically.
That's too logical, Josh. You can't do that.
And I'm not trying to troll a dude.
Yeah.
I'm honestly curious. Like, if you feel
but that
you
kinda
can't
goes
give
back
up
to,
bad for good,
But that goes back to my question then. You know, if every team, if you got your best player, it's hard to find a really phenomenal player that's on the street right now, unless he's recovering from an injury. And that's very rare. I mean, just for the most part, they're still locked into whatever team they were with. And, you know, offensive linemen, as I mentioned before, are like gold. KB, you can relate to this. You understand what I'm talking about here.
And
Offensive,
the NFL is so much different than like Major League Baseball, where you see a lot of trades and things like that.
right.
The NFL, you've got so many things working against you on a trade. So number one, are they a scheme fit? Okay.
Right.
Number two, you have a salary cap that you have to account for. Number three, in no other league is FOMO such a big issue, right? Fear of missing out.
Exactly.
If I give up this asset, is it going to come back to burn me? And I think NFL front offices, that becomes such a huge deal for them over any of the other major American sports. So you've got that as an issue. And the NFL, more than any other major league sport or major sport in the United States, priors.
Right.
People hold on to their priors so dearly. You see it in
and you know why though? They don't, because people have egos. I mean, you look at these people. I want to prove that what I did was right.
Which is why Devin White's going to be making $100 million soon.
I know.
I've Josh, I teed you up for this. I teed you up for this.
All right, Gene.
Exactly. Let's go.
I've been thinking about this.
We are here. Okay.
I've got a comp for
So
Devin
Josh,
White.
You are the GM. Put your
No.
GM
Let Josh has a comp for Devin White, and he's been teasing me with this all day, and I need to know what it is.
And we're getting the exclusive right here on Buck What You Heard.
Devin White is like trying to find a good sushi restaurant.
Oh fuck, that's good.
Jesus
all right. I have moved up and down the East Coast. I've lived in almost every major city, from Tampa to New York City up to Boston. And when you move to a new place and you have to find Ken and I have broken bread over sushi before.
Literally.
I love sushi. And you go and you try and find a good sushi restaurant. Here's what's going to happen. Okay. You are going to find so many bad sushi restaurants, way more than you find good sushi restaurants.
Yep.
Bad after bad after bad. Now, every once in a while, you find the one. You find your spot. All right. And that thing hits. All right. And that is Devin White. Every once in a while, he gets that play. And you are like, whoa. Like, it's just bright lights.
This is what I'm talking about right here.
Boom. All right. But then when you go back and you look at your search for that restaurant and you think about the 35 that you went to and the nights that you spent over the toilet because you got bad sushi, and you go, was it really worth it? And I don't think it was, at least not with Devin White, at least to this point in his career. Now, I want him to do well. I really do. And there has been some research that shows linebacker, to me, is the most difficult position to play on the defense, because you are asked to do so much on both ends, run keys, gap fitting, and then dropping into coverage and, covering slot receivers. That there's a lot, right? And there's been some research that shows that linebackers don't really ascend until like year 6.
Really?
That scares the shit out of me, because here comes my FOMO.
Okay.
I don't think Devin White should be paid what Devin White thinks Devin White should be paid at the end of his 5th-year option. However, the year statistically, based on this early research, where he would break out would be the first year of that new deal. I don't know if I will trust giving him that deal to find that out. It scares the hell out of me.
Demario Davis, and what's that guy's name for the Packers who broke up that play versus us?
You mean the one who literally got cut off the Raiders practice squad before that year?
Yeah, but I'm saying those are two examples that essentially they didn't figure out until about year 6, year 7.
So Demario Davis, who was Demario Davis with before the
Jets? He was with
That's right. That is right. Shout out to Shooter in the Stash, Mike Sushi in Palm Harbor. Since we're talking about sushi, I got to throw that out here. just because we're trying
Devondre Campbell
Devondre Campbell,
Devondre
that's
Campbell.
correct.
for the Packers.
And you know what's
Heck, even
intriguing-
Fred Warner took a couple years even too.
Bro,
I mean, like we're
what's
spoiled by
interesting-
Bobby Wagner, by Levante David, by Luke Kuechly. Like not a lot
Exactly,
of linebackers
because-
come in and do well.
Right, exactly. We look at them, and these are exceptions to the rule. I mean, Luke Kuechly is an exception to the rule. I mean, when you look at all of the people drafted in his,
I will never forgive. I think Greg Schiano gets too much hate, but that's the one thing I'll never forgive him and Dominic for, was passing on Kuechly for Mark Barron.
me and Sean King had this. We went back and forth because I was like, we were in agreement that, I mean, you could look back to my Twitter. I mean, at that time, and we couldn't understand why Luke Kuechly wasn't the pick. It didn't.
It's because of Jimmy Graham. I mean, Dominic's basically came out and said
He
it,
said he drafted Mark
but
Barron.
Mark Barron
specifically to
basically
cover Jimmy
couldn't
Graham.
cover in the league. Was the fun?
And
That was the
Mark
ironic
Barron
part.
was just an overgrown linebacker. I mean, he was an undersized linebacker, basically, right?
Essentially, and
He-
I mean,
he
the
ended up-
Steelers used him in that way later in his career.
Yeah, he ended up he transitioned to linebacker. Yeah.
With the Rams.
Yep.
No,
Emily Compa, how you doing, Emily? Emily, longtime listener. Thank you so much for checking us out. Greatly appreciate that. Buccaneer Bruce. Micah Parsons is who the Bucs think that
no.
Devin White.
Can I dispel this, Gene?
Please, if you
So-
don't, I will.
And I'm dropping the elbow if you don't. Go ahead.
So there's two different ways to look at people who come after the quarterback. There are like edged. We're not going to call Devin White inside defensive lineman, so we're going to call it edges and blitzers. Micah Parsons is we're talking earlier about when you draft players, essentially.
He's
Like
a
you kind of
defensive
have to have a
weapon.
good plan for them. Like, you want them to be comfortable because you don't want Devin White to come in and have too much, maybe too early, because that could lead to bad habit. Micah Parsons was put at edge out of pure necessity. It worked out. Another good one. He was on the Panthers and now he's on. He was on the Panthers, but now he's on the Eagles. What's his name? From Temple. Eagles.
Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick, another good one. So he was drafted he was an inside backer, or he was an edge player. They wanted to move him to inside backer. That experiment just didn't work, and then they brought him back to edge. All of a sudden he did better. Devin White has never put his hand in the dirt. Would I love to probably see it someday? Sure, but you can't just come in and say, hey, he is going to be the next Micah Parsons, who's just going to transition from an off-ball linebacker to edge. But you want to know what also makes Micah Parsons the player that Micah Parsons is because he's a damn good off-the-ball linebacker too. But the Cowboys were lucky in that if they didn't have their rash of injuries, it wouldn't happen.
They found him based on necessity.
Add it.
I've got some things to add. So number one, all right, there are count them, three good examples of, and you named two of them, and the other one, it's happening this year, and we'll see if it ends up being this, but Baron Browning in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So Baron Browning, he was drafted to be an inside linebacker. Denver has moved him to edge, and he is wrecking. Okay. Which is awesome for him. It's awesome to see it happen.
I think he's doing a better job than Bradley is.
Also, they couldn't afford Von Miller just for Bucs time.
So that's and Anthony Barr is washed, and Carlos Dunlap was signed the year before. So almost all of those. And JPP, the last time we saw the ghost of JPP, he was the ghost of JPP.
Also, he did really well in his first game against the backup. Hasn't really been heard from since, but
exactly.
I digress.
So, but I'll go back to this. So you've got three examples. So you
right.
tend to try and not follow exceptions because they're exceptions for a reason.
Right.
All three of those players played a hybrid role in college. They had experience with, as you put it, their hand in the dirt. Okay. The other thing with Devin is he is not Micah Parsons' size. Let's not forget he's 6 feet tall. Okay. You start putting Devin one-on-one, and he has no pass rush arsenal. Okay. He does not know how to run a pass rush move. He's got nothing that he's going to be able to throw. He's going to run fast up the arc, and they are just going to use their very long arms because Tackles have very long wingspans to just push him way past 9.5 yards, which is where quarterbacks max drop to. All right, I'm going to send you 13 yards up the arc, and he's completely out of the play. The other thing that everyone forgets about, and I'm going to go to a specific play last week against the Steelers. Chase Claypool, wide receiver, slot wide receiver, Chase Claypool, on a run play, took Devin White to the dance, bought him flowers, got him in a nice limo, and this dance was about 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage. If Chase Claypool can move Devin White in the run game as much as he can you imagine him lining up as an edge? If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm turning into Byron Leftwich, and I'm going to run the ball right down his throat. There's no way he would be able to he would stand up in the run game. So if you're saying that you want to make Devin White a full-time edge, you're going to lose on first down, you're going to lose on second down, and then you're not going to have an opportunity for him to rush to 9.5 yards because they're never going to drop back that far. If you want to use him as a situational pass rusher, I can get down with a package, but they're already doing that.
But then he's not going to
be a full-time edge.
It's going to be obvious when you have him in those positions, though. Won't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it
3rd
basically is, though. I mean, it's obvious when Devin's blitzing.
Yeah, 3rd and 10. Like, that's when you put him into that situation, but they're already doing that. Now, if you want to make an argument to take him off the hold on one second. What's up?
Oh, okay. So, just honestly, I see what you're saying here. And to me, that's something that's very interesting. Because I said this at the beginning of the show, I felt like Devin White is where he is, in the NFL. I don't see him taking that next step because we've seen consistently stupid penalties. We've seen, I don't know. I feel like sometimes he takes off plays, just little things like that where he's not elevating his game, but he's there.
He has all the potential in the world, and he has not put it together as of yet. That's the bottom line.
And also one more thing, when Devin's blitzing, what I think a lot of people miss, it's not because he's beating guards, on his blitzes, for instance. There's stunts going on, and essentially Devin operates as a looper.
Yep.
So when Devin's making his sacks, 9 times out of 10, he's coming in untouched. And another comp for him I was going to throw out earlier that I completely forgot, he's Luis Mendoza from D2 The Mighty Ducks. He is fast AF, but he can't stop.
Yeah, you see it in everything. You see him overrun so much because of it.
And how many times have we not seen Devin White go rogue, where he's supposed to be here, but he's decided he's going to do something else.
He straight cost them the first touchdown.
And what's interesting,
straight cost them all throughout that drive.
The Steelers knew exactly.
We saw that with Quan Alexander a lot, where that guy would go rogue. He would just whatever. He would just do whatever. He just freelance. And it's something that I've seen a little bit more of it this year from Devin White, and I would have hoped that coaching or somebody would have reined that in, but you're still consistently seeing this. And the one thing that I will say, I know if you've been watching the show from week 1 to right now, you see me a little bit more critical about things. It's because we have a little bit more film. You've got a little bit more to go off of. You've seen inconsistencies and you've seen consistencies to get an idea of what kind of team you have here. And we're just talking about Devin White or the linebacker position. There have been some things that Levante has done that I've been like, hey, what are you doing? But compared to what Devin White is doing, it's not the same thing.
No.
Can I give some good news? Good news? Pretty much everyone that was supposed to be a contender in the NFC is 3-3 right now.
Yeah, the Bucs are still at the top of their division.
And this is the crazy thing. Let's go back to 2020. We look at 2021, and I mentioned this before. The Bucs have lost to teams they shouldn't, for all intents and purposes, have lost to. It just happened.
Well, every team does, but we just do it with the flair.
Jesus Christ. I mean, you look at the Colts. I mean, the Chiefs lose to the Colts. I mean,
yeah, but then they drop 40 the next week, which the Bucs just aren't in that kind of mindset right now.
No, hell no.
Yeah,
I
I think the difference there, Gene, is the Bucs aren't committing turnovers, right? If you look at the Giants are 5-1, right?
Jesus Christ.
The Giants are 5-1, and I love the story, and I think Daboll's an amazing coach, and he's getting the most out of the team. But like 2 to 3 of those wins are over some fluky turnovers, right?
And a 2-point conversion that could have easily gone the other direction.
Yeah. So when you look at some of these other teams where, like the Packers, when they lost to the Giants, they shouldn't have lost. And for most of the game, they actually outplayed the Giants. Now, second half, they didn't show up. You look at a lot of these other, I think the example you gave with the Chiefs and the Colts, you go back and you look at that game. The Chiefs outplayed the Colts the entire game. Okay.
100%.
The Bucs aren't outplaying these other teams.
Right.
That's the issue. That's the frustrating thing, because they absolutely should be outplaying them. I'll go to the positive, though. I'm not worried about the offense if they can improve some of their play calling that we have ad nauseum gone over. I'm a bit more worried about the defense. Emily, I don't think we've mentioned Otten yet. Yes.
Oh, we're gonna get to Otten. Emily, trust me. Emily Compa is like, she's our healthcare professional. She's over there chilling at whatever hospital she's at. I don't want to get her in trouble, but she's taking time out to listen to Buck What You Heard while she's supposed to be working, by the way. Hopefully none of her bosses check me out, that kind of thing. But Emily, shout out to you. You are the real MVP, Emily. Trust me.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the offense because they've shown that they can move the ball. They've moved the ball.
And that's the scary part. This is what scares me right here. I mean, and other teams should be scared too. When they get in sync and they get in rhythm, and it's going to happen. And KB, you're laughing right now?
No, I'm laughing because of Buccaneer Bruce's comment. Sorry.
But I really feel like the offense is, we haven't talked about the offense as a liability throughout the season, even up till now, because I feel like at some point, light's going to come on and they're going to be rolling. I'm not worried about that. My concern right now with the injuries that the Bucs have with Logan Ryan and, the inconsistencies that we've seen, the fact that you can't rush 4 and get home, that's concerning to me. That's been concerning to me before the season started, because I've heard, we're going to do better. We're going to do this. And you can watch as much tape as you want. But to be honest, rubber hits the road. The Bucs defense, the front four especially, have not done what we've expected them to do. They've been way below expectations, and this is something they need to fix.
Yeah, it comes down to Big 50.
100%.
He's basically, he's gone where the defense has gone essentially the past couple of years.
That will continue
and what's
to be
concerning to me is that, they paid him, he got paid. And it just, I don't know what it is, but when players get paid.
5 days after they paid him, they played him 30% of the snaps in the playoff loss. That there's a lot of, ever since he's been paid. Yeah, I agree. It's been
you've been getting broke off.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I saw a comment about Shaq. So Shaq had a bad game, but I want to dispel this narrative that he's had a bad season. Let's get beyond sack totals, because
and to your point, because I want you to, I'm going to give you the floor in just a second here. Screw all you guys that don't like Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett, for the most part, not Ken Barrett here, who's an MVP with Buck What You Heard. He is a Hall of Famer. He's a Buck What You Heard Hall of Famer. We're talking about Shaq Barrett here.
I just can't believe we're on this topic still. As a fan, because it's not just here.
We had the running joke. And KB, did we not have the running joke about the Invisible Man?
That same person who started the Invisible Man that won't be named is,
because he's an idiot.
Basically said earlier today that Antoine Winfield has lapses in coverage the way Devin White does.
Sweet Jesus, I don't know.
So I digress.
Okay, but go ahead. The floor is yours, Josh.
Yeah,
we talked about this idiot enough.
Yeah, so Shaq, he had a bad game. I will
Yeah, they all do.
100% admit that. It was probably his second bad game of the year. But he is, other than those two, he's performing up to his career expectations.
Benchmarks.
And that is getting a pressure on about 15% of his pass rush snaps, which is
pretty darn good.
It's a very high rate. Okay. A lot of people want to look at sacks. Sacks are
Sacks are sexy.
They're
sexy.
Well, they very much are, but they're not a predictive stat, right? You can't say this guy got 15 sacks last year, so we can expect him to get between 14 and 16 next year. It doesn't work that way.
Unless thy name is Aaron Donald or Prime JJ Watt.
Pretty
much.
And honestly, Aaron Donald, like the sack numbers, like there's variance. It's just always above 10. So you can say that's baseline, right?
If we look at the NFL real quick, when we look at the NFL, sacks are the only fans. I mean, it doesn't, they're not the end all be all, but they're sexy, but they're not everything.
Right. Well, it's also for only fans. It's what you pay for.
Exactly.
That's a great point. All right. But pressures are predictive. Okay.
Exactly.
You can see pressure rates tend to follow a much more predictive curve. Okay. Right. So Shaq Barrett, since he got to Tampa Bay, he's been at about 15% pressure rate, which is one of the better ones in the league. What has high variance is what I call conversion rate. How often do you convert sacks or pressures to sacks? For edge rushers, the average conversion rate over the past few years is about 18% of your pressures turn into sacks. Okay. For interior defensive linemen, it's a little bit more like 12%. All right. So, but the thing is that stabilizes over a very large sample size. Mm-hmm. Over the course of a single season, you could have 24% of your pressures turn into sacks. You could have 9%. And that's why there's such high variance with sacks. So Shaq had 2 bad games. Outside those 2 bad games, he's running about 15%. Okay. So he's still doing what he should be doing. He's never going to be that dominant guy. He doesn't have that one dominant skill that he can just lean on and just beat dudes. But he's above average at just about everything. He's going to have some bad games. There are going to be certain tackles he just doesn't match up well with. JTS is ascending slowly, sneakily. A lot of people don't really see it. He had a really good game this past game. And then Logan Hall should not be counted on to get home this year. Okay. Anything he gives you is superfluous.
Yeah. Right? Because I was not expecting anything, 0 from him.
Yep.
This season. I was expecting next year that we would hear his name on in a broadcast.
He'll splash here and there, and you want to see it, and you love to see it. You hope to see some progress throughout the year, but you shouldn't count on him. He's just way too raw, moldable piece of clay. So that leaves you with Vita, all right? Because Shaq's not going to dominate every game. He's going to dominate some games, and he's going to get erased some games, and he's going to, for the most part, perform well. JTS is it's going to be a little bit more of a high variance. He's got physically, he could be a lot more than what Shaq is just from his athleticism. And you hope that he continues to progress. But it all comes down. If you only have that and you don't have anything in the middle, it's going to be very difficult. And Vita's getting moved like he's never been moved in his career. They've got to figure that out. There
has to be an injury to some capacity here. Since he's been drafted, I've never seen him moved like he has been.
Yep.
I've never seen him like give up on plays. There's still a lot of things that I just haven't seen that we've seen from Vita Vea. So again, I'm not giving up hope. There's a lot of games to be played this season, and it's just going to take some time to see what we've got here.
Yep.
But right now, and guys, just so you know, whoever's watching, my whole thing is I look at consistency. I look at behaviors. There's a lot of things that I look at to determine, hey, this is how I'm looking at this team. If I'm consistently seeing teams that are running on the Bucs, that's a concern.
Oh, I'll let them run all day.
Yeah.
They can run all day. You shut down the pass, run all day. I don't care. So
how he beat the Colts.
Hey, Emily said how many here are looking at the word superfluous. Hey, all you got to do is watch Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack Sparrow said it. What kind of pirate fan are you? Emily.
is like my new favorite person.
But yeah, I love that. Honestly, I think people need to take a step back, and I've talked about this before. You have to watch plays away from the ball. It can't be all about what the plays don't evolve around what's going on around the ball. There could be something going on the opposite side of the ball, and I think that's what gets missed, what gets lost in the sauce, basically. And honestly, I love Shaq Barrett. I love the move. I think KB and myself, we talked about this. We've talked about him, and not because KB's last name is Barrett or that he's wearing a 58 jersey or anything like that. We've looked at this, and I think that he gets so much slander that's undeserved, and it's frustrating for me. I've had to mute people on Twitter because they're like, oh, Shaq Barrett is trash. We need to get rid of him and trade him, or let's trade him for somebody else that'll get in there and do something, because, sacks are sexy.
Well, it's perception too, because he comes in on what, a $4 million contract, throws up 19 and a half, and all of a sudden he's everyone's favorite player. And then all of a sudden he digresses to 10 to 12 sacks a year, and that's just not sexy enough.
But the
Shaq's not getting paid TJ Watt money. I think people lose that sight too.
Right.
You're not paying Shaq to be.
What's interesting to me is that Shaq Barrett is consistently doing better than what the Bucs have had over the previous decade. We have not had the Bucs have not had an edge rusher.
JP.
And if you just showed up and you're looking at Shaq Barrett, you're missing the whole point. And Michael Bennett was over the past decade, I would say he was the only edge rusher that we could truly, before, let's go.
Adrian Claiborne had 5 sacks in a game, though. What
well,
are
Michael
you talking
Bennett
about, Gene?
If I remember correctly, Michael Bennett never put up a 10-sack season with the Bucs.
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
But he got close, though. And, we had the rock star GM that was going out here and getting all these players or whatever. But my point here is, when you look at Shaq Barrett, people are spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
At his production, at what he does away from the ball. They're spoiled by his intangibles, and it's frustrating to me.
Well, people forget is Shaq also isn't physical. He is not Myles Garrett. He's not a physically imposing defensive lineman in this league. He wins with finesse. He wins with moves. That's what allows Shaq to be Shaq. And also, Shaq's best success on the Bucs has been when he's been rushing off the blind side of the quarterback versus when JPP was healthy.
And his physicality.
He'd be right in front of the quarterback. He'd win quickly. Quarterback sees him. Okay, dump.
Yeah, I think the reason for that is he's also a superior run defender. And
for size,
absolutely.
I would say size regardless. Right now he is a better run defender than JTS. Right? He's actually
for sure.
He's a very good run defender. Period. He's above average at it. Then when you account for his size, he's elite for his size.
Exactly.
And typically the closed side of the field is the right side of the field. So that's where the tight end typically lines up on the right. And I don't know if the Bucs trust JTS to be able to get off of what offenses can do with the right tackle and the tight end in the run game. So I think that's playing into why you're seeing Shaq on that side still.
And I have to ask you guys both, and I'm going to start with you, Josh. What is your opinion of JTS right now, where he is right now? And what we have to factor in, this guy did not play a 100% full season last year. They've got him in on certain plays. He's flashed. But for the way they've
call this a leading question,
the way they've utilized him this year, and Josh, I'm going to start with you. What are your takes on JTS right now as a Buccaneer?
I am very happy with his progression. I think that he is starting to break out. He had a great game against the Steelers. He was one of the few. Him and Jamel Dean, I think, kind of led the way for the defense in terms of performance.
Ryan Suckup.
Well, I meant on the defense, but yeah, Ryan Suckup, absolutely MVP of the team right now. So JTS is exactly where I would want him to be in terms of his development. He's starting to flash. You're seeing more and more. And the thing is he's winning in different ways now. He's adding inside counters. He's dipping a little bit better, and he's progressing in the run game. So I love where he's at in terms of his progression. So, wow, this Barrett slander. Jesus.
Yeah, it's hurting my feelings.
Oh my goodness. King Cook, I respectfully disagree.
I 200% disagree.
It's also not even all that money. That's all I'm gonna say.
He's second tier. He's not over the 20 million mark. I want to say he got
16,
17
like that.
17 a year, which is
and
very
you know what?
reasonable.
On this right here, King Cook, normally you say what you say, but I'm going to say this. When we look at plays away from the ball, when we look at the intangibles, when we look at the plays that he makes, the pressure that he plays on the offensive side of the ball, when we look at how the offensive coordinators have to game plan against him, because they do, every single offensive coordinator that the Bucs have faced this year has had to game plan for Shaq Barrett. It's a fact. And I'm telling you, I understand what you're saying. You're not seeing the sacks, you're not seeing the pressures or whatever you're not seeing. Shaq Barrett is doing his job. This last game, not so much. But, I mean, if you look at his body of work in 2022, I would have to say that Shaq Barrett has been doing his job.
Yep. I'd agree.
That's just me personally.
He's had two bad games. You
remember when the fan base wanted Jamel Dean out of town, too?
Yeah, just ran him out on a rail.
Jamel Dean and Mike.
He's going to be out of town because I'm pretty sure they're not going to pay him the money that he is earning right now. He may get a bigger contract than CD3.
Well, I think he will. I honestly believe.
I think it'll be on par.
No, it's because the players in his position are like gold.
Well, look at what CD3 got paid compared to his peers. Like
he was a
lesser corners that got his tier of money.
Yeah, and that's where the draft priors come back. And to your point, Jamel Dean was drafted around after CD3, and that will play into his contract. So great point 100%. There. Yeah. Just to finish
also
up,
drafted round later than SMB as well.
Yep. They were both third rounders.
SMB was a second.
Was he?
Yeah.
You might be right about that, but I remember. Oh, you are. I think he was a second because it was him in the second. It was Jamel in the third, and then Mike in the fourth. Mike Edwards. So I was thinking of I don't know what
39th overall pick, second round.
Yep. So but to finish my what I was saying about JTS and to answer your question there, Gene, I'm on record, so I like making sure that I put things out there. I don't like to play revisionist history. I said prior to the season, I did an entire write-up on the Bucs pass rush. This was before Akeem Hicks joined the team, but then again, unfortunately, due to his injury, I don't know if it's going to really mean a whole lot versus my predictions. But I said JTS, I predicted somewhere around a 10 to 12% pressure rate, and he's running like 9.33% right now. So right about in line with what I
think that increases again once I have expectations for him, and I think you'll see more from him as the season progresses. So again, let's revisit this in the next 4 weeks, see where he's at.
Anthony Nelson, very underrated when he's
very underrated. Carl Nassib, guys.
Nassib's been playing.
Yeah,
Nassib's been playing very well this year.
I mean, I think this is the best rotation. That's one complaint that I had when JPP was here is how they never came out. It seemed. I like this rotation they have going. That's one positive from the defense.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to address this. King Cook has responded here. Can we at least try for Vaughn?
I don't think people understand. Vaughn, what he got was like 3 times what we had left in salary cap.
We
got Logan Ryan on the cheap. We got Akeem Hicks on the cheap. We got Julio on the cheap. It's not like those 3 contracts still don't even come close to Vaughn.
Yeah. And I'm going to speak to Josh, the capologist here, to follow up on that.
So I think, all right. So Vaughn, they they couldn't afford Vaughn. Okay, that's just right there. You want to try? Okay, you call him up. You say we can give you 8 a year, and Vaughn goes. Okay.
He goes, like, show me the money.
There you go. It's just not going to work. So Carlos Dunlap is a situational pass rusher. Okay. So if you're going away from Shaq Barrett and you're bringing in Dunlap, you are bringing in somebody who's going to need a complement. Dunlap does not play every snap. Okay.
He also is more of a 4-3 guy, too, not a 3-4.
And he's a Robin. He's not a Batman. He's a Robin.
Yeah. And then Anthony Barr, like, he's
a tweener too. He's not even a pass rusher. He's a off-ball linebacker.
He's a bad version of what we were talking about earlier in terms of Micah Parsons, Hassan Reddick, and then what Baron Browning may turn out to be. So I don't see. We could have gotten Dunlap on the cheap, but I mean, again, it's a situational pass rusher. So you're getting Dunlap instead of Carl Nassib. Well, you got Nassib cheaper, and Nassib's performing well for the role he has. Dunlap maybe performs a little bit better in that role, but I mean, you're talking a few snaps
I really believe if the Bucs win one of the 2 previous games, we're not having this conversation.
If you want to talk about how they could be 5-1, let's talk about red zone offense.
Woo! Ryan Suckup leading the league in kicks, baby.
Yeah, baby. You know, Team Suckup, you're already right here. No, my thing is, and I'm just based on what I'm seeing here from the direction of this conversation here, I really believe that if the Bucs won one of the last 2 games, this is not a conversation. We're not having this.
I'm fine with talking process, and King Cook, he's talking about all these other pass rushers because he wants to see a better pass rush. I think that's a good conversation to have. The Bucs need to get a better pass rush. Everyone
needs a better pass rush, though. That's
the thing. Absolutely. But what they're running on right now is unsustainable for the level of defense that everybody's come to expect. The Bucs can play the level of defense that everybody comes to expect if the pass rush gets improved.
Yeah, and let's look at last year. This is a carryover from last year because that was the thing. The Bucs were not getting home with 4 last year. And that was a huge struggle against the Rams. The Bucs were not getting home with 4, and that's where we had a problem. We watched the Washington football team last year against the Bucs. The Bucs were not getting home with 4, and that was huge. So we're just it's a carryover from a lot of this defense. A lot of the defensive woes that we're seeing are carryover from last year, and that right there, I'll argue with anybody, and I don't know if that's play calling. I don't know what it is, but it's just we've seen this continuously.
Yeah, I think the conversations that we need to have, like, so the pass rush, don't worry about the edges. The edges over the course of this season should be fine.
Yeah,
you've got to worry about Vita Vea. They've got to fix Vea. You fix Vea, the pass rush starts to get home enough to be what it needs to be for the defense. I don't think people
understanding how much he's getting moved.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's one thing that's the common fan, because that's the thing is when you think of Vita Vea at his worst, you think he's a guy who's taking on double teams. Oh, did we just lose Gene?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
So Vita Vea at his worst, he's a guy who's a space eater, right?
Yep.
Well, he's playing the way Daquan Bowers was playing 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, he's getting moved. Yep. It's kind of scary to watch a guy like that get moved because he's the key to everything, as Josh is basically saying. He's the one who unlocks, Shaq Barrett. We saw King Cook, who was talking about a pass rush. I mean, Shaq's 19.5 sack season was part of JPP being on the other side and Vita Vea creating everything in the middle. The Super Bowl, all the playoff success, which I think Shaq had 2 sacks against the Packers.
Yep.
As well as all of his pressures against the Chiefs. Vita Vea came back for those games and played at extremely high level given his injury.
An impressively high level for what he was coming back from. Yeah, so you if you can solve Vea, the pass rush is fine. You're still Bowles is going to do what Bowles does. You're still going to see the blitzes, but those help, right? You'll get burned a couple times, but in overall, the blitzes are a net positive. you try and limit the bad plays from Devin White, and I don't know if you can, but you continue to try, right? And then the back end, you just hope that the communication improves while Logan Ryan's gone, because the biggest impact, his injury, he was playing very well. I don't want to take anything away from his actual level of play, but Logan Ryan was playing very well. But I think he brought a level of communication that you immediately saw drop off when he left.
Well, another thing, we talked about this earlier, Josh. I mean, you know who played free safety last week, right?
Delaney.
Who's never played safety before in his career and actually did pretty decent. But as Josh is basically alluding to, that goes into the communication, because the free safety has to communicate everything in front of them.
Exactly. So that there's your defense, but you're really talking about three things. If you hit those three things, the defense plays very well. And as far as going to the 4-3, the Bucs play 4-3 like 65% of the time. Like, you're a nickel 2/3 of the plays, and when you go to nickel, they have 4 down linemen. So you're basically already in a 4-3. Then on offense, you got to solve left guard.
True.
And just stop running the ball as much on first down. You do those two things, and scoring's going to go up on offense. So I don't want it to sound like, these are very smart people who run these teams.
Oh, absolutely.
But to create a fairly simple, blueprint for how can things get better, it's 5 things: 3 on defense, 2 on offense, right? So now there isn't an obvious solution at left guard. That's going to be the tough thing there. All right. There is an obvious solution on how you just don't run don't run as much on first down. There isn't an obvious solution for how to fix Devin White. If there was, they would have employed it already. Now, nobody knows what's wrong with Vita.
Is there a solution for the predictability that we see on offense? Can that be changed? I mean,
Gene, he's been predictable for 3 years, 4 years now.
I totally get that. I mean, is this something that you go in and fix? And honestly, we've seen this a couple of times where Lenny gets a first down when he runs the ball, every so often, because everything just works out the way it does.
Well, it's called power and counter, which the Bucs have done extremely well with
100%
when they have done it.
Yep. I don't have a good answer for you on that, Gene. I mean, you hope that Bowles goes to Leftwich and say, it's not working. Yeah. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
You hope.
I'd love to see more play action. I mean, we talked about this in the beginning of the season. The Bucs have all these weapons. The Bucs have all these options, and we're not seeing it. And I think that's what's frustrating a lot of the fan base, is we're just not seeing it.
Yeah. I had a point. I lost it. It's fairly regular occurrence for me.
Yeah.
Come back to me.
You sound like me, but I mean, again, I'm not abandoning ship. I think that Pittsburgh game is a game the Bucs should have won, number one, and it's a game that I'm going to look back on throughout the season. But there's a lot of football to be played, and I really think the Bucs have the talent on both sides of the ball to get a lot done. I did want to mention, just because I'm the devil's advocate here, Jake Camarda.
Oh yeah, no, he's. Yep, no, I'll take that L.
And so,
but again, he's flashed.
He flashed.
Sure,
he's flashed.
He ain't consistent.
Yeah, you get 4 plays a game. You'd better hit on all 4.
Exactly.
He doesn't.
I'm gonna say this right here.
But that's kind of nuts to think about, though. If the Bucs are only punting 3-4 times a game and playing this miserably, something just doesn't add up.
Is this something that's fixable? Is this something that's coachable?
Yes, there is a silver lining here in 2020.
Is there a checkup from the neck up?
Well, yeah, in 2020. So the Bucs claim they self-scout every week, right?
No one
in 2020, they actually self-scouted in their bye week, and you saw a change in some
Took
of
a
their,
game or two to adapt. Let's be real. They were down 17-0 against the Falcons coming out that bye.
I remember
They were down to the Vikings as well. Sorry,
But-
that's the first game out.
but coming out of the bye, you saw more play action, you saw more motion,
I remember
and the offense performed very well. You look at last year coming out of their bye, I think they hit 30 points or more on almost every single week. You got a mini bye coming up a couple weeks from now after Baltimore, because that's Thursday night football.
Week 12.
I think it's earlier than that for the mini bye. And
Oh,
then 2 weeks later, you've got Seattle
Week
in
11 's the
Germany.
bye.
Yeah.
Yep, I will be at that game, by the way. I'm just bragging right now. Yeah,
Nice. Yep. So if I remember correctly, Baltimore would be, I want to say it's after the Rams. So
I think it
coming
goes
up on
Baltimore,
7,
then the
8.
Rams, then the Seahawks. So it goes Panthers, Baltimore, Rams, Seahawks.
Okay.
That Seahawks game I'm worried
So you've
about.
got a mini bye after Baltimore. You would hope there's some self-scouting and some seismic shifts, even small ones. And then you've got the actual bye after Seattle, where you hope to see more. And then back half of the year, you hope to see them clicking. So I like King Cook's. Yeah.
You know what?
this is fixable.
You know what? I'm going to say this. The people that listen to Buck What You Heard, and I'm not taking credit for this, we've got some really intelligent people that actually follow the game and, you know, football IQ. King Cook, we've had him call in and, you know, give his opinion and stuff like that. And, you know, I understand where he's coming from. And again, this is something that I'm just kind of going to take a step back and wait to see. I was pissed after that Steelers game. I was pretty pissed, but I've had a time to kind of, you know, self-reflect and look at things. And I look back at the Chicago game. I look back at the Washington game. Games the Bucs should have won handily, but they didn't. This is just another example of that. And I feel like, you know, this team will get to a point where they'll turn things around. And that's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, I and they talk about it being a game of inches, and I really love this for context, right? So over the Arians' offense's 3 years in Tampa Bay, the Bucs have converted 65% of their red zone opportunities on offense into touchdowns.
Please don't say this year's. I'm going to throw out.
It's only 50. It's only 50% this year. They've had 18 opportunities. They've scored 9 touchdowns. Okay. Now, the difference between 65% and 50% over 18 opportunities is all of 3. Okay. So instead of 9, they'd be at 12. 3 extra touchdowns off of, we'll just say off the field goals, right? Not some of the drives that ended in a turnover and downs or anything like that, or the what was that, a Brady fumble, I think. But let's just say 3 extra drives go from field goals to touchdowns. All right, that's 12 points. It does not seem like much, but those 12 points, it's 1 field goal to a touchdown against Pittsburgh, and you're talking about a W. It's 1 field goal that turns to a touchdown against Green Bay. Now you've turned that to a W. All right, you can throw in another one and make Kansas City maybe a closer game because they hit.
I think we just got to give Kansas City that one at this point.
Man,
or Dallas looks more like a blowout, right? Because Dallas,
exactly.
They were 1 for 4. All right.
And so you honestly, if you look at Kansas City,
well, also I think wait, does that include the 2 4th and 1s that we didn't get in the red zone?
Yes. Turnover on downs count as non-converted red zone opportunities.
I should know if that included field goals as well. Like
that makes sense. There was nobody was going to beat Patrick Mahomes on that night. Nobody. I mean, this guy got embarrassed. He's been embarrassed for 2 years, and he was going to take it out on the Bucs. And I didn't care what team, what defense you put out there. He was going to win that game.
But we're not turning the ball over in the red zone, which is, I think, a huge thing. Just in the Brady era, because, I mean, we're talking about the Giants winning those games on kind of fluke things. I mean, the Bucs have found a way to lose games even the past couple of years. I think it's just this year, the way that we lost was just more concerning than those other examples we threw out there. I mean, Chicago, I mean, that's a Thursday night football game on the road. Road team loses like 90% of the time.
Yeah, I saw the comment and
no,
everything but Bucs. All right, you have to learn to be more balanced to control the clock. The Bucs have tried.
That's the force feeding of Lenny.
They have tried to be balanced. And yes, balance is great in the aggregate, but you have to be smart about balance. And the Bucs aren't smart about balance. They are trying to be balanced.
Well, even when they had the lead 2 in the Atlanta game, that was not when they decided to go balance. That's when they said to go up tempo, conservative, 3 and out, only 10 seconds off the clock when you're up. Like, so that's where I think where Josh is coming in, like having control of that and being in control and understanding, hey, let's get a lead. Then maybe we can pound the rock some more. Do
There
what
you
you
go.
do well early. Like, because again, it's like a baseball game, right, Josh? We talked about this all the time. As a hitter, honestly, what's the best pitch that you're going to get is probably that first pitch fastball, right? But 90% of hitters take it.
Yep.
So
Or,
an offense,
or
why
the
don't you come out
3-0.
defense playing out 3-0 as well.
3-0. Greg Maddux used to, I loved Greg Maddux. He
Me
used
too.
to say,
He was a monster.
or he was, 0-2, I'm not going to give you the ball, right? Like, but yeah, to your point, and to kind of address Mr. Everything Bucks comment there, the common thought process in the NFL for decades has been you want to pass off your run, and it really needs to be inverted. You want to run off your pass, right?
100%.
You come out passing on your early downs because the average, your average yards per attempt is, I think Brady this year is running about 7.7,
which is,
right? And that accounts for when you miss, right? About 30% of the time he doesn't connect, right? But on average, you're going to get 7.7 yards on first down. That leaves you with 2nd and 2.3. Run the ball twice. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because in 2 runs, you should be able to get 2.3 yards. The problem is when they try to run on first down and they end up only getting 2 or 3. Now you're forcing yourself to pass on second down. Well, what happens if you don't convert? Now you have to pass again. Okay, well, now you're at 2-1 pass to run. You're out of balance because your philosophy is working backwards.
On that philosophy, Josh, Gene, whoever wants to chime in here, what do you think as a defense you're going to react to play action to? Because I know play action is a big thing the fan base talks about. What's a more scary play action play, 1st and 10 or 2nd and 3?
I'd say both are pretty scary.
Yeah,
I would say 2nd and 3 is probably more scary.
Well, you probably have your personnel in, like, you probably have 12 personnel on 2nd and 3. Like what I'm saying is, like, as a defense, you're going to be more prepared for a run on 2nd and 3 more likely than you are 1st and 10 as let's say a linebacker. You're gonna be on your heels.
The fallacy with play action is that you have to be running the ball well for it to work.
That's why teams like the Rams just don't even.
Yeah, you don't
try. They just drop back.
Yeah, and the statistics bear that out. Play action with unsuccessful running games or running games that are non-existent where teams just don't even try, play action still works. It's still a more effective run play than not play action. Now, you can't do it 100% of the time, obviously, but this whole we got to establish our run game in order to get to play action is a fallacy.
That was 30 years ago. That's changed, man.
So, but yeah, to kind of go back to sum it all up, if you pass early on 1st, 2nd down, you set up more successful runs on 3rd down. And the definition of success, there's a little bit of a gray area on it, but generally speaking, a successful play on 1st down is one where you gain 50% of the yards you need for a 1st down or a touchdown. On 2nd down, you need to gain about 75% of what you need. And obviously on 3rd down, you need to gain 100%. So you kind of use those as your benchmarks, right? So if you pass early, then you're in 2nd and 3. Guess what a successful run on 2nd and 3 is?
3 yards.
2
Oh, yeah,
yards.
2 out of 3. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Even the Bucs can get 2 yards on a run. Unless it's 4th and 1.
But this is, and this is my struggle right here. I feel like the Bucs have a lot of weapons on offense. We've heard about it, all off season up till now. I just don't feel like the Bucs act like they've got a lot of weapons. And maybe I'm wrong here. And maybe I'm just being a fan right now, but I wish they would do more with what they have. More.
Well, that goes to Josh's point. What I say earlier with Mike Evans, everyone's saying Mike Evans for targets. If you throw on 1st down, if the league is up, let's say 20-30% on playing cover one or one single high on first down. Well, there's your one-on-one matchup with Mike. That's the bet. We're talking about 0-2 versus 3-0 in terms of getting a high quality pitch from a pitcher. That's Mike Evans' best shot at a home run.
100%.
Absolutely.
And if it's
Scotty
a single,
Miller,
it's
too.
a single. Who cares?
Yep.
It's yards. It's 7 yards. If Brady on every single drop back, it's going to be at least on average 7 yards, as Josh is saying. You get 5 to 7 yards on that first play, your life becomes a hell of a lot easier.
Yep.
Well, there you go. Well, guys, I can't believe we've been on here an hour and a half. That's crazy.
It's your fault, Gene.
It's all my fault. I lost control.
No, Josh, when I first came on the podcast with Gene, we ran 2.5 hours. We kind of had to go down to 1.
But you know what? I'm going to say this. It's a long time between Sunday to now to Wednesday, which is why one of the reasons I love having the show on Wednesday, because I get a chance to take a step back, a chance to reflect. And, honestly, there's so many more games to be played right now. And I think the Bucs can turn this around. A lot of the issues that they're experiencing, as I've mentioned before, check up from the neck up and coaching. I think these are things that can be turned around. And I still think that the Bucs are a competitive team. I just wish they could, show that they're a competitive team, if that makes sense.
I agree.
KB?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Josh. Josh messaged me something.
Oh, really? I'm gonna.
We're too little. No, we're too little. You're in the chat, Gene. It's literally your chat. No, but Mr. Everything Bucs, the fullback. I mean, we know that's basically Keefe. Whenever he's on the field, it's 99% run play. So defenses are keying on that. So that's just a call out there.
The Bucs have actually used a fullback more this year than in any other year since.
They didn't believe in it in the BA era, at least.
Yeah, so they are using the fullback, Mr. Everything Bucs. So they're kind of doing what you're looking for. I would say, and to your point, Mr. Everything Bucs, counters have been working very well for the Bucs. Like that is one of their more successful
Whenever someone's
plays.
Pulling, it's usually positive.
Yep. So I love what you say there. I'm a little curious about running draws with a fullback in. I feel like that's probably not going to be the most successful.
I think that's like a high school mentality in terms of being able to get yards with your elite. A running back in high school is generally the best player on the field, not even close. I think that's where that comes in. But one thing, just off this comment about play action off of, let's say, power or counter. I mean, I can think of 2020 where we had a pulling guard on play action plays. And I feel like that's one aspect of the team that hasn't come out really this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So can the Bucs be better with their run game?
You can't go any worse. They're 32nd.
Yes, they absolutely can. I don't think that that's the most efficient way for them to improve their offense. So when they run right now, their EPA per play, I want to say is I haven't checked it in a few days, but I think it's negative 1.1, which means that every time they run the ball, they are losing expected points.
Right.
When they pass the ball, their EPA per play is 0.3. So do they need to pass every time? No, I'm not here going to say that they need to pass the ball every time. I would love, like I've been saying this entire time, more passes on first down. It'll actually allow you to run the ball more because you get more advantageous setups for runs on 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1. And just a general movement of more passing early in the game. I'd love to see Brady throw the ball 24 times in the first half and then only have to throw the ball 13 times in the second half. And
that's usually a general formula for winning.
Right. And to Ken's point there, it's because they get up by 2 or 3 scores because the passing is where the points are. The passing is where the offense succeeds. You get all that, then you can run the hell out of the ball in the second half, save his arm, and get the
also,
balance
your offensive
in the
line
aggregate.
Is generally a little bit more like when you're throwing the ball at least early and you're having. I mean, if the Bucs are throwing early and they're failing, I mean, it's generally not a good mindset, for an offensive lineman. But when you're throwing really well, and 2 out of 3 of those plays are going to be a run. Oh man, that's when you're all hungry. That's where offensive linemen make their money.
That's
really
where they
is
eat.
the run game. Yeah. Game's a lot easier as an offensive lineman when you're running the ball.
Emily, thank you for the use of the word superfluous. I will be using this word all day at work.
Also, Otten just should be the starting Y.
Yes.
Just
leave it.
FYI.
Just leave
Yes.
it.
Well,
But
guys,
you hope Braid is okay.
yeah, you know
I
what?
hope-
We haven't talked about
I hope
that.
it's an actual neck injury and not a Tua neck injury. That's the only hope that I have.
NFL players are human beings, and I think we need to take
Braid's
that.
going to make a lot of money after football too. I hope if it's serious and stuff that he's just done.
He went to
don't
Harvard.
come back, man.
If you went to Harvard, you would too. So, you know, I wish I went to Harvard. I only went to Kansas, but I could have gone to Harvard. But anyway, it's not important. I want to get you guys, Josh. I'm going to start with you. Keys to victory, and let me get your final thoughts before we roll out of here.
I've been preaching it all podcast long. They need to run on first down or run
Stop
on. They need
to, no.
Byron got to him. Byron put his voodoo magic on.
Where's my mute? You can't tell me.
They need to pass on first down. And then on defense, Vita's got to play up to his expectations. If those two things happen next week, I'm very confident that the Bucs will win. And that's only 2 of the 5 that we've talked about, because I'm not going to sit here and say they fix all 5 in 1 week.
No. You got to start somewhere, though. KB.
Tom, make Giselle happy, baby. If everyone wants to go with this timeline of where Tom and Giselle had this rift kind of going on, the Rays were really struggling at the very late stretch of the MLB season, get bounced in the first round. The Lightning are at a very slow start. The Bucs are at a slow start. I think she put a curse on us. No, I'm just kidding. But no, really, I'm going to be at the game on Sunday. So no, I was just kidding. I'm going to be at the game on Sunday. It should be fun. PJ Walker's starting. So to me, it's just don't let that man get out of the pocket. He's not going to beat you with his arm. If he can extend plays, that's going to make life extremely hard. So keep him in the pocket. And then defensively, I mean, don't give up 7s. I mean, just let them kick. Offense, like I said last week, I think what I say, Gene, if we put up 21, we were going to win.
Yeah.
And we didn't put up 21.
Nope.
So I think if we put up 21 this week, I think we win. But to Josh's point, what I said earlier, kind of just get an early lead, throw the ball early, get some momentum going, get those points early. That's where the Bucs are one of the worst teams in the first quarter this year. So get off to a good start, set some momentum.
For
Short
me,
week.
for me, it's going to be consistency, and I really want to see the Bucs, bounce back from this, and just show some sense of urgency. Even the one thing that I've kind of complained about in some of the games that we've watched, like last week's game, we saw the 2-minute drill, we saw the hurry up offense, we saw the Bucs doing things that they weren't doing in the first 3.5 quarters, they started doing at the back end of the game. There needs to be some sense of urgency, going into the game, just because, you never know what's going to happen. And, you want to get the defense on their heels. We've seen what can happen when you get a defense on their heels, looking at the Kansas City game versus the Bucs and how they handle business, and even the Steelers, and how there were times where they had the Bucs on their heels. The Bucs need to take advantage of, every time they have the ball. It can't be, oh, it's okay, we got a 3 and out. They have to, they have to play smart, and there has to be some flow to the game. And that's something that we haven't seen. I mean, we've seen 3 and outs. It's okay. And you see the field position battle. The Bucs, with the level of talent they have, the Bucs should act like they have a level of talent. I think they're just missing Julio Jones right now. And with Chris Godwin, with Mike Evans, using your running back, Rachaad White. I love Rachaad White. Natural pass catching ability out of the backfield. I mean, speed and space. These are things that can be utilized to put a defense on their back feet, on their heels. And we're just not seeing it. So at this point, I would love to see the Bucs, take time to, I think it was mentioned tonight, self-reflection. Let's do this better. tape don't lie. You look at the tape and reflect a little bit, and you come back the next week. These are games that can be won. These are
Buck
all
the tape. Sorry.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
I said buck the tape. It was just a joke.
Exactly. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. I mean, there are so many opportunities. The Bucs are not a bad team. It's just the way things have gone for them, and I know that they can do better.
I think that should be the common. Just do better. Do your job.
Do your job. I mean, that was the comment.
That's pluses.
Yeah. And we all stated that at the beginning of the season. Do your job. And Devin White, please stop going rogue. It's not a good look. Just do your job. Anyway. But guys, thank you so much for checking us out. Josh, do you have any articles coming out?
I had one come out this morning. It was a film room on the red zone offense. So you see how I kind of threw that in there during the pod. That's right. That's synergy. I'm hoping to do a couple YouTube videos. I think I'm going to do one on JTS and one on Jamel Dean. Just
make sure you check the plus before you do that.
I really believe you need to do one on Michael Bennett.
On Michael Bennett.
I think that would crash the all 22.
It would break it. It would break it. No, just do one on Shaq Barrett, please. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done on Shaq Barrett. I think it would benefit a lot of people.
I'll try and get one in the next couple of weeks on him. And then I have an article planned that I've got to start putting together on how Devin White cost the Bucs 7 points
going rogue
right from the very first drive. And it's more than just the DPI. He had 4 plays that allowed that drive to continue to go, including the touchdown that he allowed. Yes, he allowed it. I hate
being the guy who's always correct, but roughing the passer.
Sorry, roughing the passer. Thank you. So I was going to cover those 4 on an article. So that's my lineup coming up. And then typically on Saturdays, I do my soliloquy about punting. So that may come out this week as well.
Jake Camarda.
At this point, it's just me ragging on him.
I think I'm the only one on this panel that actually I still like Jake Camarda.
I did again, like all the potential in the world.
Hey, they took the better kicker than the guy that I talked about for forever that we're not going to talk about.
Stonehouse who I believe went undrafted. He's top 5 in the league in EPA per play. I mean, he is. The Titans got rid of an all-pro punter for Stonehouse, and he has proved them very right on that.
Nice, very nice.
How's the Ravens kicker or punter been? He was the first one off the board.
Below average, if I remember correctly. I think he's actually performing worse than Camarda.
Love it.
Understood.
So guys, NFL teams do not know how to evaluate punters is the moral of that story.
Yep. Cautionary tale, my friend. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking us out. Shout out to We the Thunder, Shooter in the Stash. Great things, coming in the future. Cigar City Brewery, thank you so much. Hopefully you're checking us out. We're doing our thing. Shout out to you guys. KB, before we go, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
They're gonna get a hold of me at the Bucs game this Sunday in Bank of America Stadium. That'd be my first
DOA. Yeah, Joe McCoy's home, as he says.
There you go.
Anyway, I'm sorry, throwing shade. I shouldn't have said that.
Just kidding. You all know where to find me on Twitter. It's there.
All right, guys, we are out of here. Everybody have a good night. Thanks a lot for checking out Buck What You Heard. We'll be back here next week. Who knows? We may have Josh on here again. You just never know.
And it'll be a short week.
Yeah. Peace.